Hello everyone, welcome to our channel CareersTalk. I'm Sunil Sharma, a senior consultant from the Netherlands, and here on CareersTalk we invite industry experts to share their real life experience with all of us, which have helped thousands of Scrum Masters so far. Friends, this is the fourth part of our series with Apoorva, who has received 5 job offers from different multinational companies. You can find the link to the first 3 parts in the description below. And friends, if you want to connect with me or to join our WhatsApp community, please check the description, or you can also check the About section on our channel for all the details. And one small request, if you are new to our channel, please subscribe. We have lots of valuable content for Scrum Masters. And if you enjoyed this session, which I'm sure you will, please hit that like button. So without further delay, let's dive in. Welcome, Apoorva. Thank you for giving your time today. Apoorva, over to you.
Thanks, Sunan. Thanks for having me again on your channel.
Our channel.
Yes, our channel, correct.
Okay. It's not my channel. Cool. So let's not waste time and let's start directly with the Q&A. Or you want to share anything? How's your journey from last 1 year, 1.5 years with us? CareersTalk.
Yes, it's been really good. So I started off my interview preparations from my previous company when I wanted to jump. And the biggest learning material I had was CareersTalk. And believe me, guys, even if you are reading through the whole day, you can't get through with all the materials on this particular channel, even after 3 months. That's what I have found from my personal experience. You go through few of the videos, make notes and everything once you're seriously preparing, and you get tons of another set of videos. It's so enriching, and by going through a lot of videos, making notes and going through them, I think is the best key to crack any interview.
Yes,
Because there are a
absolutely.
lot of people who are giving lots of insights on their experience. So when you consolidate all of it together, you will get a unique answer of your own.
Absolutely, absolutely. Basically, we are getting benefit from their experience. So the kind of mistakes or we can learn from them, right? And we
Correct.
should not repeat that kind of things. Okay, so let's start then. Shall we start?
Sure.
Okay. So the very first question is that how would you bring up, or I would say handle a discussion about this technical debt during your sprint review, especially when your stakeholders are not very technical. So what you're going to do about it, Apurva?
Okay. So maybe I'll take an opportunity like where we have some of the enhancements or CRs at hand. We would have estimated it about, say, for 50 hours or 60 hours, or if you're saying in story points, so X number of story points. But even after almost double the time, if the team is not able to do it, definitely the stakeholders will come back and ask why, how, what's wrong, going wrong, and all. So that's when I would probably bring up this discussion on technical debt. So what exactly is technical debt? It is like it is suboptimal code, that it is not written in the best way possible, or it's not maintained the way it has to be. So why somebody would want to have that kind of a code? It's not that wantingly any project or any team will accumulate technical debt, but in different scenarios they will be forced to have that. Like some common reasons what I can think of is deadlines. When you have to meet the deadline, you don't have time to meet every coding standard. You do a quick fix and move on. Or there's a lack of experience. People keep leaving the team and joining the team. So because of that, the newcomers may not be aware of this coding standards, and freshers, they're not so experienced on how well they have to code. Or sometimes changing requirements. Once everything is set, suddenly you get a very different kind of requirement, and it has to be implemented in a short time span. People will take shortcuts. And other things are like legacy applications, very old technologies, so it's becoming difficult to maintain. And probably inadequate testing, or they have not used any automated tools or something like that. These are some of the reasons because of which technical debt starts accumulating. So I would like to then tell the stakeholders what will happen if this continues. So going on and on, we are already seeing the current example where the CR or the enhancement is taking a lot of time. But if we continue to do it without addressing these technical debts, there may come a time where we just cannot maintain the code, or we can't add any more enhancements to it. And even worse, it might start affecting the end users also and the user experience, which will definitely, they might start moving away to other applications. So that's the main part. So when it is going to affect their business, when you tell them that, that will make them see the seriousness of the problem. So then the next question will come is, okay, fine, we are already at the problem. How do we firefight? What do we do next? So what we as the Scrum team can suggest is, first jot down the top 2 or 3 tech debt areas which you want to clear out first, which will make at least 50% of the problem come down. So those areas, once it is identified, you can schedule for them, estimate the efforts required for that. And for the next couple of sprints, involve that at least some percentage of it, how much ever is possible from your side, 10%, 15% of the sprint effort should go into clearing the technical debts. That's the firefighting mode. And on the long term, now that we already know that we have to clear them out slowly, the long-term plan would be, you can plan for refactoring the code. That is like restructuring the code behind the scenes, but not affecting on the anything on the front end with newer technologies. And plan for automated test suite, so that if it's only manual testing, you might miss out some cases, test data may not be available all the time and things like that. So if there's an automated test run, it runs every time. So any issues, along with that, you can have a static code analysis tool also, where all your coding standards are already pre-fed to the tool. So when you run both of these, it will ensure that any issues or debts that's coming up, you get a notification on them, and only after fixing that, the team can progress to commit those changes. And along with that, a later point, when you have money and you want to invest, you can also think about a CI/CD pipeline or rewriting the entire legacy system. That is long-term approach. So these are the steps probably we would suggest to the stakeholders on tech debts.
Wonderful, Apoorva, for that elaborated answer. Wonderful. Thank you, Apoorva. Okay. Uh, shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay. So now let's say your team actual effort basically they deviate from their actual estimated story points effort, significantly, let's say over the period of time. So what would you do to improve that estimation accuracy? Maybe when you have joined any new team, right? So you may seen that these kind of things are happening. So what will be your approach?
Okay. So the first thing what I would probably do is, if it is not a new team, so if it is a new team, then deviations from estimation is quite accepted. But if it is an old team, I would probably pull out the historical data on effort estimates for at least 4 to 5 sprints previous to this one, and see how many stories are going away from deviation, more than 10%. Like then on basis of those, you can get a connect with the developers and try to analyze what are the root causes for those. And out of the many root causes that's going to come out of the brainstorming session, you can pick out 2 or 3 main areas and start working on them. So common root causes, like this is a common problem, right? So from my experience, what are the common causes we have got for estimates being deviated drastically is, one, if you have lot of dependent system, which could be upstream systems or third party tools or any dependency of that kind, and if you're not getting it on time, your wait time increases. So, and you work and halfway through you understand that there's a problem in their bug, you send a bug to them, again wait. So because of this, your estimates might go haywire. And the other one is during estimates, many developers, what they do is they just give the effort required for the implementation changes. Okay, they need just 4 hours to make this code, but they wouldn't have calculated how much time is required to merge the code, again unit test it, move it to the QS bucket. That also takes significant time, right? In every ticket, that 2 or 3 hours, if it goes consolidating, that will definitely give us a big deviation. And another thing that I have seen is additional scope on the ticket. Sometimes the PO, they'll say that I just missed this validation or this scenario got missed. I don't think we need an extra catch-up ticket for this. It's just this work and it's very logical to have it within this ticket. And if the Scrum Master or the tech lead is not acting as a barrier there, it goes on adding to the scope of the story. On the front, it looks like this particular story, this person has taken more number of hours, but nobody will understand that they worked this much percent extra also. So that is one root cause. And in Agile, many of the teams, since we have both the testers and developers on the same team, if it's not the end of sprint, normally we'll ask the testers to fail back the ticket if they find any issues and not keep on raising defects and increasing the defect count, right? So in that case, they wouldn't have included this fail back time, the rework required when if it is a failed back, that is not included in the estimates. So these are the basic root causes which I have seen. And some simple things what you can do to avoid them are like you maintain a DOR, that is definition of ready checklist. Most teams will have a DOD. What will they consider as a done ticket? But they wouldn't be considering what all should be there to take it in the sprint at the first point, especially if they have dependencies. So only if the definition of ready, all the checkpoints are ticked, especially the ones on dependency, then only take it in. And a structured communication approach. If the upstream system or the third party tool, if they're changing something on the service signature or any new changes they're bringing in, a structured way of communication has to be there, and little time has to be given to the consuming teams so that they can plan for it. Suddenly yesterday something was working, today it's not working, means it's going to disrupt our sprint definitely. So that is one. And third is like when you are estimating using a poker or anything, many a times the seniors would be giving their estimate first. The juniors may be scared to say we need more time, and they will go along with whatever the seniors say. But at the end of the day, it's the junior who's going to do his taking more time. So I normally, what I do in my teams is I ask the junior most people to give their estimates first and the senior most to give in the last. So that way the senior will also understand where his team is facing a problem. That is one. And we can definitely educate PO on not adding additional scope into tickets and create catch up, which can be taken in the next sprint. And when you are giving an estimate itself, you should keep an additional buffer of 2 to 5% for failbacks. And the team will know by experience how much time they need to create these branches, do the PR merge and all that. So give that extra time as a constant effort for every ticket. So that way, including all these steps, hopefully we can reduce the deviation in estimation.
Wonderful. Some good tips over there. Okay, thank you, Purva. Okay, let's move on. So now let's say your developer feels that the product owner frequently changing the acceptance criteria. Okay, even after the
Mhm.
sprint has started, and that lead to the scope creep and the frustration among your team members. So how would you address this issue to maintain a healthy working relationship? And we have to also ensure that requirements are clear, so they don't have to change frequently during the sprint. So what's your approach on this, Apu?
Okay. So acceptance criteria is also definition of done. So what all do you consider to be done before you are marking a ticket as complete? So it is quite understandable, and it is true that the developers get frustrated if they are getting if the DOD or the acceptance criteria is changing mid sprint. So the thumb rule is always try to avoid that. But as we are agile, we know there may be certain unavoidable circumstances which we may have to do to change the acceptance criteria. Like say there is a change in some countries' rules or regulations, that regulation has to come in within that particular day, and these people got to know late, whatever the reasons are. So in such scenarios, we know that the acceptance criteria will be set by the PO, but I would always push them to take a decision as a team. So when bring them all together to a meeting, and you can do an impact analysis. Like if you are going to change the acceptance criteria from this to XYZ, then how is it going to affect the stories which we have already deemed as complete? What will be the rework on those? And how is it going to affect the sprint goal? And you will have to weigh the potential benefits against the potential threat it is going to give the sprint. So for this, again, as I said, collaboration is of utmost importance. The product owner, scrum master, and dev team, they have to come together and give out their opinions PO will always be pro it because they want to change, and dev team will be against it because they don't want to change. So we have to mediate and come to a common ground. And after all that, if the team feels and decides to go for a change, it has to be documented properly. And that acceptance change, whatever is documented, has to become the basis for the next set of stories. And the other one is we'll have to consider the risk management when we are in that meeting. It is quite obvious that since you're changing the criteria, it might affect your sprint goal. It may include delays, scope creep. All of these can come in. You need to have a robust plan to handle these. And last one, at the end of the sprint, when you're doing your retrospective, this has to become a scope of learning, like how you can ensure that you can change this acceptance criteria before or after, before a sprint start or after the next sprint. So that way you can consider this as a learning to what to do or what not to do for the next future coming sprints.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Apoorva, for that. Okay, so the next one is a little interesting, and I think it's a unique question. I think we have not asked this question, I think, so far. And the question is like, how do you identify the unique strength and weakness of your team members?
Okay.
Apoorva.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. More of a personality kind of question rather than something to do with Scrum. More on our leadership qualities as such. Okay, so there are a couple of criteria on which I would analyze what is the strength or weakness of my team members. One is assess their performance versus potential. Performance is like, how are they doing the current task? How are they doing their current job? Is it satisfactory, beyond satisfaction, or they still need to improve? How they exactly are working on it? Are they proactive, or they just take it like a instruction fed? You do this, they'll finish that, and go home. Is it that way? Or are they coming back to you with proactive ideas? And potential is, if you give this person a next level role, how is he going to take it? Is he really enthusiastic and wants to take up new, or he's very happy the way he is? So this, if we put it in a grid, it becomes high performance, high potential, high performance, low potential, low performance, high potential, and low performance, low potential. So if it is a high performance, high potential candidate, he is already doing his job so well, and he also wants to grow a lot. So I don't think much of push is required from your side. Other than that, you'll have to pull him down to the ground a little. But he is a promising candidate. You don't need to worry. The next is a high performance and low potential candidate. He is somebody who is in a comfort cocoon kind. He is good at his job, but he doesn't want to change. He doesn't like change rather. So how you are going to convince him that change is the essence? Things are definitely going to change. If he's not going to step up his game, he'll no more be very good at his own performance. The third one is low performance, high potential. This may be a case where he's given a job he's not good at, or he's doing it for a very long time, he's bored, but he has the potential, he has that spark to do something new if given the opportunity. So that is when you should try to tap this guy and give him some interesting work. Otherwise, he's going to leave for sure. So that is, and the last one is like low performance, low potential. He is not interested in what he's doing. He doesn't want to grow. Either he has a personal problem or he just doesn't like this industry. There's nothing much you can do about such people. You can try to push him and give him some encouragement, or try to understand what he's actually interested in, and try to give him encouragement to move to that domain. Other than this, we can also observe their behavior and communication. Behavior in the sense, when there is a problem solving kind of a solution, how different out of the box can he think? How quickly can he come up with a solution? Is he very good at problem solving? Or if there is a conflict between a team member, how nicely is he handling it? Is he throwing a tantrum, always escalating, or he's always getting subdued and allowing the other person to have it his way? How is he taking it? And then other one is like decision making. Maybe he's a senior developer and they have a couple of options in to implement. One is like a good implementation technique, but not much evidence on it. The other one is a safe approach, but not so much output as you are expecting. Is he ready to take the risk? Is it a calculated risk? Is he very over courageous? That kind of things you get to know. And communication through his mails and in his calls, is he very able to clearly articulate what he's trying to say? And the other one is like asking questions and listening to them, asking closed-ended questions where to see if they are very clear in their thought, and asking open-ended questions if they are able to elaborate enough so that you can understand, or probing, reflective type. If you're asking, how do you think you could have done this better? Is he able to reflect well, or is very kind of thinking that whatever I've done is correct, there's nothing I need to improve on? Even if he knows that he has to reflect, has he given it enough thought? Those kind of things. And the last one is feedback and recognition, which I think in most companies will be happening, at least during the time of appraisal. You'll get constructive feedback on you can do this better, or recognition during star of the month, star of the quarter, this person did this. That anyway is going to encourage the person. So that is a very traditional approach. So using all these techniques, I think we can understand the strengths and weakness of our team members.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now let's assume that you are preparing for a major release, but let's say your integration tests are taking longer than what we expected. So how would you work with your team in this situation to ensure that the release timeline is not going to be affected? What will be your approach?
Okay, it is a difficult situation because senior leadership, everybody is looking forward for that. They have been asking earlier also, are you on track? Are you on track? So thinking that you request so many days for integration, you have always been saying you're on track. When suddenly you have to go another week is down the line and you say, I'm not ready. That's something everybody's taken by an unpleasant surprise. Nobody would like that. But at the same time, you'll have to be transparent and tell them why it is taking more time and what is the importance of us to complete these integration tests, because you have to deliver a working product with required quality and performance. So you will have to convince them that you can't go without these integration tests and it has to be done. And on the background, before you go to the meeting, you can check with your dev team actually how much effort they need. You don't want them to give buttery, sugar-coated figures. Exactly, brutally, how much time you need. You need to understand from them. And if that timeline is way beyond your go-live date, you might have. I would at least probably suggest to the management that if possible, we can go for a staggered release. It's not like you're pushing the whole thing forward. You can tell them that we will go in phase 1, 2, 3, 1 week gap in each. And in phase one, whatever they want to go, highest priority items, you ask your team to do the integration of those first so that it goes. Then you get another week's time for the second priority items, and then the third one. Along with that, probably we can also suggest to the team that you can roll it out to a beta set of users who will do the first round of testing, like post-production beta users. Let them check all these three phases, and then you can announce a big bang go live to the entire world with the whole set, all the three phases combined. So that way you get some time and you're not really losing your face in the market that you said something, you're not at all going. So I think that is a good way to firefight this situation. And always, whenever we face such trials, we have to take back learnings, right? So what I would do for my next project or for the next release is we have to continuously do the integration testing. It's not that it can be taken as a separate phase by itself. The sooner and faster you keep doing integration testing, it gets fixed then and there instead of taking a big chunk towards the end. Then I would also suggest that we take up or automation testing suite. So again, it all costs money, I know, but it will definitely free up some time and effort for the testers and the entire team. And you can even, the amount of trust you will have is also more, because human testing, we can always err. So that is one thing. And even the architecture, how you are doing, it has to be in modular format so that it is easier to integrate, so that, which also will help in the integration testing. So these are the steps which I would suggest to the team to take up so that they don't face this kind of firefighting for the next release.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, so friends, we are reached half of our question for this session, and I don't see a single reason that you should not hit a like button. Uh, the way Apoorva is giving all these answers, elaborated answer, I would say is really, worth that like. So just hit that, smash the like button, and then we'll move. Okay, so we are waiting. Just take 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Yes. Oh, you're not doing it? I just saw you still. Yeah. Just hit that like. Okay, I think they hit that like button. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so tell us a situation where your contingency plan was put to a test. First of all, let our audience know what is a contingency plan. Most of the people don't know the difference between a mitigation and a contingency plan. And then you can
Okay,
describe that scenario, because I think this
sure.
is a tricky question and not many people are aware about it. They know what is a contingency plan, but they are not sure, like, okay, when, in which situation they have used it, and how effective it is, and what you learn from this experience. So that's the question about.
Okay. So the difference between risk mitigation and contingency is mitigation is you're coming up with a solution for that. Maybe temporary or later can come up with a final solution. You're mitigating the risk totally. You are coming out of the risk is mitigation. Contingency is you have a mitigation plan in place. You know how to come out of it. But at the moment, you can't just like that come out of it. So how are you going to stay afloat? How are you going to continue your service until your mitigation is done? So contingency is how you are going to continue your services to your client or along with the live risk on your plate, how you're going to ensure that it's not going to affect your project or work. So one of the best examples I can think of is our COVID situation. Nothing better than that. The risk or probably it had even become an issue. The difference between a risk and an issue is you're foreseeing something may hamper you is a risk. The issue has already happened. It's on your plate right now is a issue. So there was both risk and an issue when COVID-19 broke out, but we didn't know how long the lockdowns are going to stay there and how we are going to support our clients because everything was becoming online, including education, health, even consultation, everything was online. So the stress and the weight on the software industry was so high at that point in time. So we knew the risk, whether our support staff will be able to support it, whether our hardware is going to support it, if things are not going to crash and all that. At the same time, our health was also at stake. We have to stay at home and still continue working. So that is a classic example of a risk on our plate. And the contingency, we all know, like most companies had immediately procured laptops. They issued work from homes. You had to manage both home and office at the same time. But with time, I think we all got so used to it that many of us are not ready to go back to office now. But that contingency was one of the best, I think, one of the best the industry has ever seen. Even without going to offices, with all of us sitting across the globe at different corners, we were able to give the best when it was required from the software industry. And I think most companies have also shown an increase in productivity at that time because we didn't have the travel and those kind of things. Other than that, other contingencies I can think of as smaller issues, like there was a Chennai flood. Uh, when you have an offshore two locations and one of them is going down for any natural disaster or any strike or something like that, the other team at the other place has to rise up. Like we had that situation. We had two offshore locations, one in Bangalore and Chennai. When Chennai was completely down during the floods, uh, we had a production support team here where all the traffic was diverted to Bangalore. And I think most users didn't even feel that they had a support center in Chennai and they didn't see any issues at all. Another one was very way back when I was just early in my career. We had this trade center. bad thing happened, right? The trade center tragedy. At that time, one of our clients, the biggest go live was supposed to happen from one of the offices in trade center when it went off. So immediately all the changes and whatever had to be done was transferred to the offshore servers, and we still went live. It was a banking project. So that way, yes, these are some of the contingencies which have helped us to stay. But one of the best things or best practices we need to do is we need to keep doing mock drills on our contingency plans. If we have something in our bucket, you just can't think it will just happen. It's like a fire drill itself. We have mock drills, all the sprayers, everything comes up. No, this is also like that only. Until you keep testing and keeping the people appraised and ready to take on any emergency situation, it will not just happen by itself.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so if I understand, just one more line, like mitigation basically involve proactive measures to reduce the likelihood or the impact of a risk before it occurs, and contingency basically involve planning some specific actions that need to be taken if a risk event occur. Okay, so that's the, I think, key takeaway for me, and you have given a lot of good examples, so wonderful. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so next question is on the sprint goal. So let's say your team frequently misses the sprint goal. So what matrices would you use to understand the root cause, and how would you help your team to improve their goal completion rate? Yeah, Apoorva.
Okay. So I would first of all see the sprint burn down chart for the last couple of sprints, 5 to 6 sprints. See the trend, how it is going. If it is like consistently they have been burning stories every 2 3 days, or everything is getting accumulated towards the end and there's a big burnout towards the end, so that would mean that the story size is very big and the team is requiring almost 8 to 10 days per developer to bring it to a conclusion state. So that is a risk for the project. So if they're not able to complete that story, it means you have nothing to show at the end of the sprint, and you're quite likely to miss your sprint goal. So the solution here is you'll have to ask your PO or your BS to break down the stories much further so that each story is burnable in at least 2 to 3 days. So you should see parts of your sprint backlog getting burnt every 2 3 days, so that by the end of 10 working days, you can see that quite everything has got burnt out. Or worst case, even 1 or 2 stories are getting spilled over, it won't have a very huge effect on you. So that is checking on your sprint burn down and checking your sprint velocity. See how they have been performing for the last 4 to 5 sprints. If the sprint velocity has always been around 35 to 38 story points, and you have always seen that they have been committing to more than that, like 40, 42 or 45 story points, you know that that is all their capacity is, but for some reason they've always been committing to more. So that is a place where you'll have to do an RCA, find out why they're thinking they can do more than the previous one, or is the PO or somebody else pushing them to accept more than they can actually chew. So that's about sprint velocity. The third point is about change to commitment. So how many stories are getting in? How many extra are getting added mid-sprint for which they had not done analysis earlier? So if the PO or the BA or the senior management, they're saying this is extremely important for business, you have to include it in between. So if you're naturally, if you're taking something in between, something else which was planned will take a back burner or get pushed to the next sprints. So that is one thing, change to commitment. Not just adding new stories, adding scope to the current stories also. So if that is not happening, change to commitment, you can see if it is very high, you'll have to talk to your BA or product owner and ensure that this is corrected. Next is defect density. How many defects are coming, getting raised per sprint? So if the defect density is high, it means the quality of delivery, which is coming out from the developers bucket, is not so good. And that which also means they have to put in extra work for rework, which they may not have estimated, or it is really high that they have to work on their code quality. so that the number of defects per sprint will come down, per story comes down. So that's about defect density. And the last one would be about the team capacity during planning versus the actuals. During commitment, if they had 8 people working for the entire sprint and not many leaves were planned, and every sprint you see one or the other person is taking multiple unplanned leaves, it has become a habit in the team not to inform earlier and just take when you want. That is a practice which you will have to break, and because of that also your team may not be actually able to plan that this is the amount of effort we can plan for and complete at the end of the sprint. So team capacity during planning versus actual is also the other metric. So with all these, I think we should be able to tackle the missing sprint goal problem.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Great. Cool. Let's move on. So your product owner wants to commit to more stories than the team has historically able to deliver in a specific sprint, right? But your now team is concerned about overcommitting as there is a pressure from the product owner. So how do you facilitate a discussion to reach an agreement on a sprint commitment, and how do you ensure a realistic planning that's supposed to be happen? It's not to be that much, but then yeah, something where both are agreed, you and your developers.
Agree. Correct. Again, even for this problem, for most of such scenario problems, I would first go for historical data. Last 5 to 6 sprints, how has the team been able to do? Uh, Before that, first I'll find out how old is the team. If they have burnt only 3 to 4 sprints, that's around 2 months earlier to what we are talking now, or it's an old team which has a historical data of 5 to 6 sprints. If it is an old team, you take the team's velocity for the last 5 to 6 sprints and you see it's around same, I'll take the same example, 35 to 38 story points. Then you feel you know a few things about the team now. It is an old team. The application is not new to them. Technology is not new to them. And also there's not, also if you see there's no much disturbance in the team and all the requirements in the backlog are quite clear. When things you feel looks like settled down, you can talk to your dev team and see say you are doing well now. I think it's the time to step up your game a little. Maybe the PO wants you to step up to more 15 story points, add more, but definitely the team will not be okay with that. If they are comfortably completing around 38 story points, you can try to make them push it till 42 to 45. Add it extra, it's okay. Even if you are not able to do it, you can always explain to senior management that we are trying to improve the productivity of this team. So it was 38 only before, we have now committed to 42. So maybe they'll be okay with it, and you have to give them that assurance that they will not be penalized if they don't they're not able to complete it successfully. But on the other side, if they're able to complete it, it will also give them that confidence that their team and the maturity is improving. On the other hand, the other scenario, if the team is quite new, they have only spent 3 to 4 sprints now. That's only a 2-month-old team. People don't know each other so well. Nobody is very well acclimatized with the application they're working with. Maybe there are a lot of freshers. The technology is not very comfortable for them. And along with this, if as an added disadvantage, if the requirements are not very clear, you have a lot of dependencies in the team, you have to do POCs, some new technologies you have to play around with, then probably I would rather talk to the PO and tell him all these problems, that these are the areas which is not clear for the team, and this is not a time for us to probably to push them to add more. So as a third party, you step out and think of both the scenarios and weigh them, the positives and negatives. But in both cases, again, we have to bring them to a single table, talk to both the PO and the dev team, and giving all these facts and figures, what we just spoke about, make them themselves come out with a consolidated decision. Only then people will be happy and they'll be okay to take that decision, not coming from one side, in both sides.
True, true.
So that way they'll be able to come up with an informed and realistic decision. I think.
Wonderful. Yes, I think that's the right approach. Okay, let's move on. So let's say a client has raised a concern about the lead time from feature request to deployment. So how would you address this? Like maybe you're going to use some matrices to analyze. How are you going to optimize this lead time? That's the question, Apurva.
Okay. So basically, lead time is the time from which they have formally raised a request for a particular value, a service, a CR, or whatever it is, till the time it is delivered to them. Similarly, cycle time is the time at which the team picks it up for development till the time it is delivered. So if they're talking about lead time, I can also assume they may be using a Kanban board. So whatever it is, the customer is telling that I have raised the request 2 months ago and I'm getting it 3 months later, it's not acceptable for me. So what I would do is, if they're using a Kanban board, you analyze the cycle time from the start when it gets picked up till it gets delivered, how much time it is taking, where are the roadblocks, is there a wait time, if that wait time is there, is it for any dependent system, or when they get blocked they just leave the story there, why is the wait time there. And the third thing is WIP, that is a work in progress. How many tickets are they keeping in work in progress column at a given point in time? If there are too many things work in progress, you can be rest assured that nothing is going to come out. It's like too many cooks spoil the brew kind of thing. So at that, in such a condition, I would ask them to apply a WIP limit. So no more than X number of items can be in a work in progress state at a point in time. How would they come up with a work WIP limit? Normally, it's like number of headcount in the team minus 2. If they have 10 developers in the team, you don't take more than 8 items work in progress at a particular time. So with these, going on to analyze further, what you can see is if there's any handoffs happening in the team, like there's a separate dev team, separate this team, they're handing over. Again, you verify, send back formal mails. Is all this waste happening? So in that case, you would probably want to suggest to create a DevOps team where the development, QS, BS, ops, everybody is in one team. And if possible, try to have a co-located team, because at least in the same geographical time zone, if 3 people are sitting in India, the others are sitting in US, the time zones are so much different that you may start waiting for the other person to even come in. That is also a waste again. And if you have dependent systems where because of which your wait time is increasing, you can discuss with that dependent system and get a schedule from them when they are planning to do these tasks. And you plan those things only in the next sprint, N+1 sprint, so that you don't have a wait time on them. So you can immediately consume whatever services they are giving you. The other one is, if many places we have a third party where they are providing certain parts of the software to you. Within the long course of time, try to see if you can make it in-house. You can have that also within your team, so that their rules and regulations will be different. That will make you wait, and those kind of undulances you can avoid. And keeping communication transparent is very important in these cases, because there are multiple teams, multiple stakeholders. If you just want to conceal that, though there's something brewing here, you just want to conceal and give a very nice picture, one day it will blast. So better not to go till there. And on top of all this, there may be some basic problems, like the software which they're working on is very bulky, and the hardware that they're using, the configuration of their system may not be actually complementing it. The worker studio, after they type, after a long time it will come. So if that happens throughout the day, it's such an irritation for the developers. In such a case, you will have to get permissions to procure the required hardware and software, whatever is required. Along with this, we can always encourage automation using standard static code analysis tools. This will definitely bring down the manual efforts in wherever possible way. So with all these steps, we can reduce the lead time.
Great. I think you have covered all the major steps over there. Great, Apurva. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on. So during your sprint review, right? So how do you ensure that the non-functional requirements, so for example, performance or security or let's say usability, right? They're also demonstrated in front of the stakeholders and they are reviewed. So yeah, it's a tricky
Mhm.
one, and I think not many people are aware about. Yeah.
Sure. So NFR's non-functional requirements, first of all, to make the stakeholders understand about this, if they are non-technical, itself a big thing. They just want the screens working perfectly fine with whatever kind of data, all the validations working fine. They will find a problem with this only if the system is crashing with so many people, or the usability is not good and things like that. So what first, as a team, we'll have to educate them what are the NFRs they have to look for, and what as a technical team we have come up with. For performance requirements, some of the most common ones are response time. When you click a button, how long is it taking to respond? You give a submit on some form, how long is it taking for you to give a success or a failure message? Throughput, how many transactions are successfully processed in a given period of time? And obviously scalability, hopefully most people can understand how many concurrent users can hit the system at a given point of time. For these performance requirements, we do have a couple of tools like JMeter, which creates a HTML report after it runs. JMeter and load runner also. JMeter will give you, like, when you are using that simulation, you just click a button and it does all the processing and gives you a success or failure message. It will calculate how many seconds it has taken. You do that for a couple of various different kinds of cases. Same case with the throughput. You set the timer for 5 minutes and do those operations multiple times with different users. It will record for you how many successful transactions you could do in that 5 minutes. And same way for load testing, it will virtually add that much load on your system, like virtually 500 people are using it. So how long is it taking to respond, or when it is going to crash and things like that? Maybe all the NFRs we can't demonstrate and show. Something like load testing, you can only probably show them that it is, we have loaded this much, see, this is how it is working. Or if that test is going to take a very long time, you can download a report and show them this is how it is working at this point in time, and point out where the problems are. We want the system to be scaled up to 1,000 users, but by 800 users itself it is crashing, so we have to do these things to performance tune it. Some things like how easily it is able, the clicking rate and all that, you can show there only and show how fast it is or slow it is. The other NFR is security requirements. Two main things are authentication and authorization. Authentication is like, for a given, you are authenticating them. You have a username and a password with whatever required strength you want. That's big case, small case, number, special character, whatever your company is asking them to do. They should have given a proper password and a username. That authentication is it happening. Authorization is basically user permissions. Which kind of user has what type of permissions? A salesman may be having only permission to fill a form. The sales manager may be having permission to authorize it. Administrator may have access to do a backend operations also. So for these kind of security requirements, also we have some tools like ZAP, Z attack proxy, where it shows which part of your code is vulnerable, which can give you a data security breach, where some attacker can come and pick away your valuable data and information. Third one is on usability. This NFR is mainly for front-end applications, which is for end users, like common man kind of users, like Amazon, Flipkart, those things which all of us use. So how user-friendly your UI is, how intuitive is it? If you click on something, is it giving you proper messages as to how you have to redirect? And if something breaks at the background, how it is giving you a message on the front? And clear feedback and things like that. For usability, also we have tools like Loop 11 and all, it which gives you, like, for this particular part of the screen, how intuitive it is. It will give you a score kind of thing. But better than that, most companies, what they do is something called guerrilla testing. They have this prototype which they just go around on the streets, and they ask anybody on the road to just test their prototype and what they feel about it. With that, you can understand what exactly people are feeling about your system. And the last one is maintainability. How maintainable is your system? As in years pass by, technologies change, a revolution will happen, your business needs might change. How easily can your application handle that maintainability? How easily you can change it? For that, we have already discussed about using static code analysis tools, using automation, CI/CD pipeline. With those things, you can do the maintainability. I understand for every code review, every sprint review, you can't have all these tests done for everything. What we'll have to do is maintainability testing is very important. You have to do it with every commit, not even every sprint. Every commit you can see, and at the end of the sprint, you can pull out one static code analysis report and show your stakeholders that this many vulnerabilities and stuff we have. All the 7s are closed. Set 2 will be taking whenever, whatever is the timeline. Performance testing, maybe you'll be doing it to alternate months, and security testing whenever you're handling stories on this user login kind of stuffs. Usability, maybe when you are starting your project or when you're having major changes, you do this kind of loop level testing or guerrilla testing. So I think that's how you can show how you're handling the NFRs during sprint reviews to your stakeholders.
Wonderful, Apoorva. Great. You have covered a lot of things. All these points which you have covered: performance, security, usability. Wonderful. Okay, so friends, we have more questions. We have more questions for you guys, but then we are going to cover that in the next session. I think we already spent 30 to 40 minutes on this, Apoorva. So thank you, Apoorva, for sharing all your experience with all of us. And friends, before we finish, please show your support by liking this video, subscribe to our channel, put it in a comment what you like, don't like about the session. So with this, take care, stay inspired, keep achieving a great thing. This is Suren Sharma signing off. Thank you one more time. Thank you, Apoorva.
Thank you.